Right, so we'll start off. Welcome to An Actor's Life, episode 4, Enter the MYCHOVERSE. Thank you to these two special guests that I've managed to find. I don't know where I've managed to drag them from. I was going to make a whole, the whole MyCast joke and stick it right back to you, Mike, but you know what? I've got to try being...
You had your one shot and you've missed it.
I had the one shot. I didn't take it.
We found a very special podcast host, but we couldn't find one. So instead, we came on.
You got me. You found me.
Revert right back at
there
you.
We go. How the tables have turned. How the turned of tables.
How the turny tables
have turned tables.
But yes, thank you for both of you taking time out of your very busy schedules to come and catch up with little old me.
Right, it'll be all three of us, as you'll hear in a minute, no doubt. But...
Yes, we also have probably a special appearance from the current prince of the MYCHOVERSE himself.
Cakes just off screen.
No, he's looking at that hand coming. Where's
the next right?
It's coming. We just don't know when. We'll leave it in suspense.
I've got also a cat here under my shoe, so I hasn't had any sausage for a tea. So. It's all going on here, Will.
It's all happening. It always is.
Life used to
always
be really
is.
simple.
Yeah, we used to be really cool. Now we just have to worry about handing various food items to small creatures.
It's
the simpler times.
Like a film set.
It is very much like a film set.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you're very much used to it after all these years. So you're just in a little confined area now.
For a decade, haven't we? So
yeah,
exactly.
A lot of good training.
A lot of training.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody can hear about that training that we've all done over these last however many years. Obviously, on your MyCast interviews. So obviously, we'll leave the links to the MyCast podcast and obviously the Mycho channel as well for everybody to do their research. If everybody doesn't know, obviously, how we all met. Yeah. But obviously, from you guys, I'd like to you can remind the audience, how did we first meet all these many years ago?
I could say. You want to say?
It's not. You're saying it like it's dirty or something.
Oh. Well,
some seeded affair.
We were making a film called Legacy of Thorn, and I think we'd cast a couple of people.
All of Will's friends.
Yeah, basically, we'd cast all of your friends, but not you, because we hadn't met you at the time. But yeah, so
nobody knew me.
When we did the main shoot, we had a couple of cast members who had who were there for the kind of main 2 weeks that we did of principal photography. And then we were doing some pickups over in Preston, and we needed an actor to come and fill in a role that needed some special effects stuff doing. So we needed someone who could do that and who could be featured and do, I think you had a couple of lines and stuff. And I think your name just kind of got thrust in front of us, and we were like, right, awesome, yeah, he's, that sounds. I think you'd contacted me before, perhaps.
A really long time ago.
To say you were interested in.
So what, about eight or so years ago into it?
2012, 2013.
Yeah,
I remember.
We did the shooting back in 2013.
Yeah, I remember Jade having to cut Paris's hair because it had grown.
Yeah, because the shoots are about 2 months apart, I think. So, he just hadn't cut his hair since then. He just
turned up with a full-on fro.
So yeah, he'd gone from a shaved head to it wasn't massive, but it was noticeably longer. So we had nail scissors on this bridge, giving him a haircut while while we were setting up lights and getting ready to do takes and stuff. There we go.
The baby just coughed on the cat.
It's all going on here.
So a battle royale about to commence. With who needs Godzilla and Kong when you've got Ash versus Jack?
That's true.
Yeah, it's perfect. Writes itself.
It does. It's writing itself right now before my very eyes.
Yeah.
So obviously, Legacy of Thorn was obviously our first time working together, and I hold that in very high esteem. And obviously, I remember just being very nervous meeting you two, because obviously Craig and Jane playing the leads in their roles, just constantly told me all the stuff that they were doing, and I just thought it sounded so amazing. Because obviously, with my training, I'd always just been in theatre, and obviously being quite young, I didn't really understand how this industry worked in independent films. So to hear all the stuff that they were doing, sorry.
I don't think it works the way we do it. Do it that way.
Well, I'm sure Quentin Tarantino's in the kitchen making cheese sandwiches and that, isn't he? He's just looking at feet while he does it, that's all.
Exactly. But yeah, I just remember coming to set and just feeling completely welcomed by both of you, and going away from that thinking that if I ever got the chance to work with you again, I would be completely happy. I feel like I'd met two really good friends that I really wanted to see again. And then obviously, like, a year later on, we came on to April Fool's Day.
All right, yeah, which is
We've just been watching
very nice, yeah, because that's like
which obviously, congratulations on doing the Dixon cut, the director's cut.
The Mike Dixon's released the Dixon cut.
All the scenes are just longer.
Yeah, it's just the same.
Same, but everything's
a bit longer.
Everything's really drawn out, and randomly there's a guy in makeup at the end. That's it.
I must admit, I did like the add-on of Richard chasing down Georgie's character, because I remember obviously in the original version.
It was one of those things where, because it was originally we made it and then it was put on like an anthology, but they needed like less time. So like I went through and just kind of cut a lot of stuff out that I really liked, just to tighten the whole thing up. And so like it was a bit of an opportunity just to take a load of stuff, including like a couple of things that I had to cut out, and that was one of my favorite bits. Was that they just had to go last time, which was he's chasing her, and but he never quite catches up to her. It's like a, you know, the slasher thing from the other side, where, you know, no matter how far someone runs, like the killer always catches up to them.
Never get.
And I thought,
never get closer.
From the other angle, I bet that would be really annoying for like a slasher villain if he's forever chasing someone but not getting any closer. And so it's one of my favorite bits, I think.
Yeah, I must admit, it was great just to watch that again and just reminisce on so many good memories, especially like say working with Georgie and Paris.
I was just saying to Lewis, it might be one of the best things we've ever made, and it seems really weird that like so few people have seen it over the years. Which is kind of part of the reason of doing like the director's cut thing, is so that we could kind of release a new version of it, so that people could finally kind of see it without having, you know, kind of online and that kind of thing. So it's but I was just saying to Lewis, I think it might be the best thing we've ever made.
It's because you've got Lewis in so many parts.
Really,
that's why.
Yeah,
Lewis plays like the entirety of the cast.
He holds together a film.
He did ask me not to mention that when it first came out, he was getting a new job at I think Virgin Mega Gym or something.
Don't say where he works.
I mean, you've seen that. Oh,
like,
he
still works.
He doesn't. He's left now. That's the only reason I'm saying it.
Okay.
But he was like, please don't mention that.
That one.
He was like, please don't credit me as Hitler.
And here's his home address and telephone number.
On IMDb. He's like, please don't credit me as Hitler.
Yeah.
You will go back and credit him as Hitler.
I will now, yeah. I'll go back.
Of course.
I'll credit him. He plays about 8 characters in that book.
Did you enjoy being a robot?
I did. I really did. The walk was really good.
You've just spent the day being Hitler and robots and John Wayne.
Bagger the Clown.
And John Wayne Gacy.
What the impressive CV. It's alright, isn't it? We cut you out there, Robot Lewis. Anymore.
I'll just give him the Hitler credit.
Yeah. He played John Wayne and John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah. And he played Hitler. Who else does he play?
The robot prankster.
He plays the robot prankster, which was basically made of like, it was like a bin that we cut up into pieces and made like, you know, like a South Park style robot.
Will was there.
Will was there.
That's in the garage. That was. I remember.
When I was putting the director's cut together, I had just loads of takes of you saying your lines with Rich just trying not to laugh the whole time, like, because he's got this little helmet on with the little that little microphone piece, and he's just, you can see him breaking at the absurdity of this set that's made of like fridges and tinfoil hanging off the ceiling, and like you can just see him breaking, like, and it's hilarious.
I think the behind the scenes video that you've got on your channel as well really shows off some of those great moments as well.
Yeah, I think that's the most behind the scenes footage we've ever shot for anything.
Yeah, we're not good at behind the scenes, are we?
And because I've got another whole camera that we took that but it's from like the 90s, and it's like a weird tape format that they only ever released like one camera of, that has another half hour of footage on it that I can't get off because the leads for this camera just don't exist anymore. So there is another like half hour or so of like secret
lost Mycho footage
that's on like 8mm cartridge. That, like I say, was only ever released for this camera and then never again. So it's like one day, hopefully, I'll get that back, and we'll see what's on there.
One day in many years' time, we'll see what we actually managed to capture on there.
Yeah,
that will be interesting. Obviously, after that was the year after we obviously filmed Slasher House 2. Brought me back for that.
Is that how quick it was?
What? Yeah.
Christ.
Well, he's done his research.
Yeah. If you asked me what was next, I'd be like, I don't know.
I do the research is all up here. It's all from memory.
Oh,
every film I have with you guys is well logged in here. Everything.
Oh, really? And the dates and everything.
This is big brain time.
I mean, not exact dates. My memory is definitely not that good. If you've seen me act on camera, do lines, Anna, you know how bad I am with my memory.
You are 100% not the worst, and not even bad.
Well, Slasher House 2 was November of that year.
Speaking of people being terrible at remembering lines on Slasher House 2, like, do you remember Craig trying to deliver the Ghost of Hollow Crown?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Actually, the Ghost of Hollow Gate, and it just sort of kept trailing off to Steve's the skeleton of the Ghost of Hollow Crown.
I couldn't believe it as well. Because, I mean,
So
like,
funny.
Craig on Legacy of Thorn had entire, like, monologues and stuff.
He did, yeah.
So I gave him, like, a bunch of lines, and I thought, well, if I cast Craig in this part that's got the most lines, like, I know he'll remember all those. And then he turned up and he's like, I haven't memorized them at all. And I was like...
He was like, I'll get the gist across.
Yeah, I'll do the gist of it. I was like, you've got to do it exact.
It just sounds, it sounds exactly like something Craig would say.
It was very funny.
It was very funny. I had a good time.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it was horrible. It was really cold and awful.
Yeah, I think we've all established that. Obviously, for you guys, that was probably the most difficult film that you've ever
that was
ever made.
But the stuff in the pub was really nice because the pub was cool. It wasn't freezing because it was indoors.
I always forget that you were there because you're literally just in the background the whole time. Like the scenes about other people, but obviously you're there to establish
set up obviously the next
later on.
Yeah. But it was like such a it's where they shot with bit of Withnail and I, and so they had all the memorabilia up, and it was just that was a really cool like location.
It was,
and a bit of shooting. But it was cold, and especially if you've got blood-soaked trousers, they will.
Well,
oh yes, definitely. I think obviously the main thing to take away from Slasher House 2 is probably one of my most iconic deaths, if not the most.
Yeah.
So I mean, the good thing obviously you cast Jane alongside me, and obviously because Jane and I were at college together, we worked together a great deal, and we'd been in situations like that before, or similar things in theatre where things become intimate.
Simulated blowjob decapitation scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, it's a standard thing around the Mansfield area on a Saturday night. You know, just go out to the local graveyard with a few beers, a couple of girls,
it was
occasional murderer.
I think it was it was probably the most gratuitous death that we'd ever written up to that point. I think maybe ever. But, and I think so. All of a sudden, you go. It's really easy to write it. Well, I mean, not easy, but you know, it's one thing to write and come up with it.
You wrote it funny as well. Like it's supposed to be funny. It's not supposed to be.
But then you think, how are you going to cast someone like and say? So you need to, get your head lopped off while you've got your mouth around something else, and you're going to take that with you, and it's kind of like. How do you pitch that to like an actor? So we kind of decided early on, well, look, we're going to have to bring someone in who we know and trust. And then so because you were playing the male role in the scene, we kind of went, well, we need to find someone that will obviously feel comfortable doing that with Will as well. And obviously Jane felt like the natural choice. I mean, the initial idea was to have the 4 main characters from Legacy
Jane
of Thorn.
also, I think, has a really good sense of humor.
She does, yeah.
And can see the funny side of stuff, but yeah, it was just nice to get everyone back as well from Legacy of Thorn, who knew each other, were friendly, and then it felt a little bit more like mates doing a thing.
Yeah, especially like you say, the way that you've written it and how it was cast, I think was ideal because, like you say, you've got all your people back, the majority of people back from Legacy. Everybody's in that same friendship group. They've all known each other, worked with each other before, and things for you guys feel a lot easier managing us on set because you know how we work, as well as we all feel comfortable because we're with people that we know and we all have that great on-screen chemistry as well as off.
Yeah, I think the only one that we didn't know before was Sammy.
Yeah, so Jade was supposed to play that role, I think, and then about a week before, she couldn't. I can't remember why.
She had a clash. I'm sure she had like a thing.
Anyway, she couldn't do it, so Sammy was suggested to us like about a week before we started shooting, and she did a really good job.
Yeah.
You know, you always kind of wonder what it would have been like had Jade played that character because it was purposefully a different juxtaposition to what she'd played in Legacy of Thorn. So I was always interested to see.
Like her and Jane were supposed to have swapped characters. Like Jane was kind of the high school princess, and Jade would have been the kind of nerdy, bookish girl. Yes, no, Sammy was brilliant.
Yeah, she did a really good job.
Yeah, I think the juxtaposition between the parts that obviously you originally had with the Thorn characters, I think that was a tribute to your previous work as well as a nice little change for the actors. So I think that I felt like it really worked because,
that's good.
Again, it was just a good experience with good friends.
Yeah.
And it was a fun death scene as well.
It was.
And
really
seemed to be well remembered for it.
It was one of those times when I, like, the whole time I'd be stood there going, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Like, no one's paying you. Like, why are you stood out here freezing to death? Like,
we were just shooting in somebody's back garden, obviously. So, I can't remember which one of them, the Mr. or Mrs. came over to me afterwards and said, I was just looking out the window and it just looked a little bit like someone was giving someone else a blowjob. And I was like, yeah.
Stop right there, criminal scum. Nobody breaks the law on my watch.
They weren't actually, if that
it's
helps.
Meant to look.
It was all simulated, but I'm glad it looked realistic from...
We know we did the job well enough, though.
We'd met them before, luckily, because we'd shot a bit of Cleaver there. But in their little, they've got like a little, do you remember? Yeah, the little guest house thing, called the doghouse. That's why we shot a bit of Cleaver. So we'd met them before, luckily.
Yeah, so they kind of knew what to expect, I think.
Yeah.
We kept blowing their electric because we had to have like huge lights out there to light the whole place because it was just pitch black. It's out in the middle of nowhere. There's like no street light or anything. Like so we were running like 1,000-watt like lights off like 2,000-watt lights off like one plug socket, and it just kept blowing their breakers in the house.
Yeah. Like
all the time.
And they were watching Downton Abbey, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Running a dangerous game if we're interrupting Downton.
I know,
right? That's what we do.
I cannot find the words to say how I feel.
Yeah, and they kept telling us about the groundsmen, the armed groundsmen they had in the woods to protect the wildlife.
The
we're
fowl.
like, this is how a horror movie starts, isn't it? Like
it is.
One of the lads goes, "Oh, I'm just going to go for a slash in the woods or whatever," and that's it.
That's it. And then you've got a whole new one to add to the Mycho entry list. Got a whole new film to start up.
Like a snuff movie.
All right, I guess this is the night bitches die.
Nothing wrong with branching out a little bit, is there?
It would be quicker.
It would.
Less special effects.
And it would solve a lot of problems in many ways.
depending on who you get to go. So.
You're like, oh, it's a shame. Okay, I wouldn't have minded working with you again. Never mind.
Oh well.
Never mind. There's always next.
Good ones.
Keep the good one. Keep the good ones alive. Is this?
And obviously,
yeah, it is.
Yeah, and obviously after Slash House 2, there was a bit of a lull. Obviously, I obviously, what would it have been? With 2018 when we filmed Mask of Thorn together.
It was, yeah.
So in
Actually, it was straight after. That was the film we did after Slush House 2, though. It was the next film.
we did Hollywood. didn't we?
No, they were before.
Oh
Slush
yeah,
House 2.
Hollywood was before Slush House 2.
Yeah.
Mask came after Slush House 2. House 2.
But that was a lot, like you say about, you know, I cast you because straight away when I was writing that role, I thought, Will's got to play this guy. For a few reasons, obviously, I knew you'd do a good job, but also, like, it's one of those things where, again, like, you want people on your set who you know and like, and, you know, especially when you've got a large cast of people, most of which you've never met before, you really want someone there that you can trust. And, you know, you're one of the first people I think that springs to mind when I'm doing that. So, you know, you were the...
I do greatly appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was a really good set of, like, very pleasant people to work with. Like, it just was. Yeah.
And you got to have good hair and a nice mustache.
Yes. Again, another look that you gave me that is quite well remembered amongst my family and friends that all very much love that.
When people say the wig looks ridiculous, I go, don't say that, he'll be offended. That's his real hair.
I mean, I wouldn't mind it, to be honest, right now. That wig was a lot thicker.
I think it was because
enjoy that.
It was obviously it was like a 70s set. That bit was set in the 70s. I thought, like, that was like the do then, is like guys had like kind of like mini perms, you know.
Like Ross in Friends.
But for some reason,
yeah, the whole Ross Geller joke. Yeah.
Ross? Looking good, Mr. Carter.
For some reason, it just never quite sat right. But, you know, I don't know. I think it works. People can say what they want.
They can.
No bribery.
I refuse to accept it. All right, it's coming.
There we are. Buy me on the rice cake.
There we go.
He's
going to turn into a rice cake.
He's only happy when he's eating.
I think we all understand that feeling. We're always happy when we're eating. It's always a good thing.
Yeah. I remember
Mask was great.
Thorn, I remember that the bit where you go to the maternity ward and point down the corridor, and then Thorn throws a blade and chops your hand off, taking about 7 hours, maybe.
I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, I think that was probably the only stressful bit I remember from the Mask of Thorn.
Yeah, I think because we had such a, like, I've talked about this before in other things, but it was such a tight schedule because we were filming in the summer, but we had to film at night, so we had literally about 6 or 7 hours of dark a night. So everything had to be like really, really, really planned down to like the minute about what we were shooting. And then suddenly we got to that shot and it took like an hour and a half and we'd allotted like maybe 15 minutes or something to get it. And I was like...
It looked good though, like, and the fact that I'm still pointing, like, when it gets popped off.
And we tried everything, didn't we? We had fishing wire hooked to you and then like things holding it up.
and then a Coke bottle with squirty blood in it up his sleeve, and but it did look good in the end. So I'm
just used to being manipulated and like animated. I've just it's kind of come with the territory now, isn't it? Really. I did have a friend actually talk to me a little while back when I said just talking about film stuff with them and obviously working with you guys. He says, "Why do you always point at things in these films, Will? You realise as soon as you point to something, your arm is coming off."
Yeah.
I think actually he's kind of got a point.
Yeah.
So have you, or not?
or more like I did. So yeah, I did love Mask.
Yeah.
It was always great to come back to part of your franchise that I was very familiar with and I knew a lot about, and I think as well as that sort of the role of Lance, I think was something different for me to get into, but also came with a lot of the familiarities of being in a Mycho film. So obviously, bless you.
He's inhaling rice cake.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that'll do it.
that's part of it as well. Is that when you know people are going to come and work with you, or you want them to, you try to write interesting characters for them that like they haven't played before. So I felt like that was a character that I'd never seen you do. So it felt like a good thing to do, something that would be interesting for you as an actor. Something that you hadn't got to do before. And when you're writing, especially when you're working on like, very low budget stuff like we are, you kind of often have to create something that's more interesting for your actors as well, because sometimes that's kind of the only bonus that you can offer, apart from some free Jaffa cakes on set, and that, is also like the character might be fun to play. So
yeah, to be fair, I don't think I've ever found the character not interesting that you've written for me, and I've always found it interesting to think, I wonder what goes through your guys' mind when you come to casting the roles, and I wonder how that process goes of, right, we've got these characters, right, I know I've got certain people that I have in mind, I have a certain roster of people that I know will come back to do certain parts, and they'll come and they'll be, reliable. I've always sort of wondered what it's like for you guys when it comes to, I like that role. You know what? He dies quite well. I know exactly we're going to put in that, or whatever it is, the criteria it is.
Yeah. When it comes to like people like you or Derek or whatever, I think when he's writing, he writes with you in mind for the character. So he doesn't sort of finish a script and then go, who can I put where? He's already written it going, imagining, because I know that was what was going on with Slasher House 3, because we were talking about it when you were talking about, and this will be this person and this will be that person, and they'll have, and you can then, it's good because then when you're talking about it, when we're talking about it together before there's a final draft, we're like, you can really imagine those two people as human beings in a room.
Yeah, and you, quite often it's just as you're writing, you'll start to naturally feel like somebody or could be played by somebody. Like I think Timo and Jason in Pandemonium, that could have gone either way, because to me it felt like you could have played either character, and Derek could have played either character. And in my mind, I was like, so these are two actors I've worked with completely separately before. I'd love to see them in the same room. And so those characters feel very similar in a way that they're kind of like they're best friends, so. But then when it came to it, I was like, right, okay, what's more interesting for Will to play versus Derek? And I felt like Derek to play kind of like, because one of them is a little more simple than the other, which is kind of a natural thing when you're writing
goofy
two characters. One of them is very he's a bit of a dunce, isn't he? And then the other one's kind of more of the leader of it. And I thought, okay, what will be interesting here is to see Will play this kind of like really sleazy, horrible, because that's like the opposite to what we've ever done with you before. We've never seen you play like this kind of like.
It's obviously gross. Exactly what you're like in real life. But...
Exactly. I mean, you cast me down to a T with that.
Well, that's what I mean.
You
like,
got it spot on.
It's so far away from who you are that suddenly goes. That's more interesting than casting, say, writing, putting you somewhere where you're closer to your personality or the characters you've played before. And I think, I know.
Another ice hit coming up.
Here we go. They're all coming up here, buddy. And I think that's just really more. It's more interesting for me, and it's more interesting for an actor to have those characters. And so, to have those characters to play that you haven't necessarily done before. And like I say, with Timo, I think I decided that would be the best option, because I felt like that's something that's such a departure from who you are and what you usually play, that you'll be able to have a lot more fun with it. And I think as a result, you get to become a character a bit more, and that really shines through in that film. And also, like I say, Derek's used to playing like the kind of handsome, perfect boyfriend or whatever and stuff. So giving him a role where he's basically like a bit of an idiot, like walking around like, oh, what's going on? I
think he also wanted to do a bit more comedy type stuff as well. It
gives him a chance to flex a completely different kind of muscle.
Yeah.
Which I think he obviously does brilliantly, doesn't he? Because I think with like people like Derek, And I think I found this on all the sets. There's always been, especially one or two people that I've instantly had a great connection with. And I think Derek is a perfect example of that. And Lee as well. I think Lee was fantastic.
Yeah.
They're just two individuals that have such a persona and this energy about them, where they've got such wonderful personalities, and yet they've got such charisma about them, and they can delve into all these different strings of the bow. And I think what I respect greatly about Derek and Lee is how animated they were, the great sort of body language, and how they sort of just brought what I felt was their natural personality to the role, but obviously with their certain eccentricities.
Yeah.
Eccentricities is a word for it.
Yeah. And I think again, like it's when you're writing low budget stuff, it's your kind of responsibility to do that for your actors, is to create something that they can pour their personalities into in a unique way that they've never been able to do before.
Yeah, I think we knew you and Derek would get on.
Yeah,
I think that from spending time with Derek, like the same sort of easygoing nature, like on set, and interest in all of the set stuff, you know, like not kind of going, I'm just going to wait over here while you're doing all the boring stuff. We didn't know what to expect with LMJ, because he's like a rock star, but yeah, so I didn't know if I was going to have to be separating out Skittles or.
But he's
Rider,
as well. He's all sorts of different things. Like
he was such.
So he plays like
fun.
hippies and Nazi officers and like army generals, and so I'd seen him play like a whole load of stuff, and I thought, well, like, what can I offer to him that's something different? And so we kind of came up with like this kind of Rick Mail-esque, should have been promoted, 20 years ago, but loves being like this kind of sleazy cocaine sniffing wide boy in the office. And so he's decided to kind of never.
Again, I think you just fitted Lee's personality straight away there, didn't you? You just let him be him.
He nailed it, and he's so funny, and also so randomly kind. Like he'd just be like, because I was quite heavily pregnant, and he would just be like, "Are you okay? Do you need a drink of water?" Like, every so often, and then go back onto set going like, "Well, wham bam, thank you, ma'am." Like, and then he would just, and it's nice because I couldn't be on set the whole time because I was like suffering. It's nice to know that Mike is there with people that are gonna care about what's going on and be nice to him. And I thought that about Oriana as well. That she made me feel like she said that when we're having like one particular fairly long night where she was doing a bit of fighting and stuff, and I said to her, I think I said something like, "Sorry, it's going on a bit." She went, "Yeah, but it's the best scene." So I was like, that's the sort of thing you need, isn't it? You need more people like that, and less of the clock watchers.
I think with Pandemonium, I think for me that was mostly the most fun I've ever had on a set. That was just pure energy, friendliness. I think, like you say, everybody on that set, you couldn't complain with. I thought everybody was fantastic. Every single person was a wonderful personality to have in every sort of way.
Yeah, it was very, for us, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it was on our ninth one and maybe we've worked it out, but it felt like the most easygoing show.
And it was outside of being on set, we were all living here at the house. So like it was like a boys' club, because Anna would go out to work in the day, and we'd be like hanging out, like I think it was like 5 of us, like Dave, and the office guys, like all just hanging out, and we became like a little kind of like club where we'd like hang out all day, and we'd go shopping together, and build props together, and and it was just like, even when you weren't on set, you never felt stressed because everyone was just kind of like, we were all just hanging out and like doing the job and having a good time, and it was really nice. It was one of those experiences that as you get older, you think, I'm done with that kind of, I'll never experience kind of like close friendships like that ever again. You know, like when you're young, and then it really did feel like that, and it was really nice.
Especially because I used to hang out with Dave a lot when we were younger. We're totally still young,
only as young as you feel.
And I didn't get.
You're only as young as the woman you feel.
And I just didn't really see him for years and years and years because he lived in Manchester. We lived in Milton Keynes, and you know, you have to get proper jobs and stuff. Dave's proper job being drag queen, but you know, that's still, it's a lot of work, and like it sort out, you know, gets rid of your weekends and all that stuff. So I didn't really get to see him for ages, and we got him back for like a few hours on Slasher House 2 to play that character. And it was just really so nice to see him and talk to him and hear a Stoke/Manchester accent. And like, yeah, it was just, yeah, it was just really nice. And so it was just like dead nice for me to have him around. And yeah, I feel like then your little friendship circles expanded a little bit, and it's just best mates hanging out like you did in college, except I had to go to work and was really pregnant.
So almost the same, I guess, in comparison.
I wasn't all that pregnant in college.
No,
I had too much.
I mean, there's some key differences, obviously, but I think what you two have nailed so well over the however many years that you've been doing films is you've nailed the whole family aspect within your actors, your crew. I think you've really nailed the family aspect in. You've got this core group of people that you know you can rely on. You know who will bring everything you need to the table and who will help you as much as you help them. I think that Pandemonium was probably the epitome of that, in terms of you've got the formula worked out, it's been nailed, and now as we go forward, I don't think you'll ever encounter. You will obviously encounter problems here and there, but I think
that will.
Yeah, it's always a difficult one.
I'm hopefully not.
Whenever you bring someone new in, whether they're in front of or behind the camera, like it sometimes can shift the balance depending on what their attitude is like. And so you do have to be very careful.
Yeah. But we were more careful, I think, with Pandemonium, because we knew we were going to be struggling anyway, because we, you know, any minute I might have to go and have a baby, and I might then having to finish the shoot on his own because we had the location, we'd paid for the location for X amount of time. And we went and met Ori because we'd never met her before. Yeah. And it's a bit disconcerting to say, come to this film shoot where a panda guy murders a load of strippers when she's never met us before. So we thought we should probably go and declare ourselves not murderers, at least a little bit. So we drove to Luton and met her before and knew we'd we just got on. But she was the only person I think we hadn't. Lee Mark Jones, but he was friends with Derek. Yeah,
so I'd been in touch with Lee for a long time, because every year we'd go, "Have you got anything for me?" And I always, his age group was always something I was never really casting for. Do you know what I mean? So it was kind of one of these things where, and then it got to the point where I thought, like, he's gonna think I'm just brushing him off, you know, like, and so I was like, okay, right, I've got something here. So I just messaged Derek and said, do you think he could do this? He said, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Right, cool. That makes my decision for me then. So, but yeah, I think, you know, even then, like, he was like the wildest card I think we had coming, and we kind of already knew that he'd do a good job. And you know,
and it particularly felt like a family, because sometimes, like, Cleavers was a brilliant cast. Like, I can't think of a person on Cleavers that wasn't amazing and that I didn't like sort of love every second, which is the same on most of our films. But like, for me and Mike, it was a nightmare because all the technology was going wrong, all the locations were really inappropriate sound wise or whatever. It was stressful for us from beginning to end, even though
on a logistics side it was quite a nightmare, I'm assuming.
But all the cast were lovely. So it's on other times there's been, like, you know, one person who's made things a bit difficult or something else going on behind the scenes. But yeah, I didn't feel that on Pandemonium. I just felt like even when things went quite hilariously wrong, like locations changed in the middle of the night or whatever.
Magic walls that appeared out of nowhere overnight.
Yeah.
It was dealt with good humour and quickly.
And I think that's a testament to the people there,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think, like, if you're already having a difficult time and then you've got a problem person on set, they're taking up a load of your problem solving energy.
Yeah.
But if everyone's kind of cool, and like I say, we're hanging out building props and stuff all day and then going to set and having a joke and eating dinner together, and and then a problem arises, you all stand together and go, right, okay, how can we solve this? And before you know it, we solved what would have been a catastrophic problem on almost any other person's set. We solved between us in like 20 minutes and went, okay, we'll do it like this. Do you guys think you can do this? Yep, we can do that. Do you think you can, and then if we break it into these parts, then, we can make it work in that way? Yeah, okay, fine, cool, excellent. Then we've got it, and it was down to you guys being very fluid as actors and going, okay, so this is not what we imagined, but how can we make this work and how can we make it more interesting as a performance? And I know Lee Mark Jones really kind of came out of not his shell, because he's permanently out of his shell.
That's such a problem.
He really kind of pulled it out of the bag and was like, well, why don't I do this to introduce the scene? And
there's a rice cake supply going down,
and it pulls it all together.
The rice cake trick is no longer working.
We'll have to up it.
We
must go on better.
He's got 2 rice cakes.
Sometimes 2 is all you need.
So we can do this.
I see, you didn't have enough in both your hands to. There we go. He's got it figured out now.
We'll put him here next time. You can see what we're dealing with. You're a good boy. Yeah. But yeah, it was really good fun, and obviously it's now a bit sad to think about it, but but it was such a good team, and so many funny things that happened, and so many nice little jokes we had, and like Ori throwing the twirl at Derek, because in the scene where he says, "Give us a twirl," so she does. And I really liked that. That was good.
Yeah, and we were the whole time everyone was kind of goofing around, and it was but then when it came to work, we were goofing around within specific parameters in order to form a coherent story.
It was a fairly easy location to work in some ways, in that there was kitchens and toilets, and it was around the corner from Sainsbury's. Because I couldn't be making sandwiches then, because I was working full. I was about to go maternity, so I was working full time and then shooting nights, so I just didn't have time. So a lot of Papa John's was.
Yeah, I think Papa John's was one of the underlying saving graces that helped everybody fuel up and carry on.
It's the first time
that was certainly
of eating junk food though. About a week and a half into having pizza every day for tea, and I was going, "Oh my god, if we eat pizza again, die." And then we had fish and chips, and everyone fell asleep.
Everyone died. Yeah, you weren't there that night. That was when we had Nad, who's like the security guy, who, when he gets the control key stuck in his forehead, and Dave says, "Sometimes I just lose control," which is one of my favourite bits.
Okay.
Got quite a few good bits, hasn't he?
That one.
Give him some good lines.
But that day, I got us all fish and chips for just a change, and it was too much stodge. There's people falling asleep in the corridors while we're still trying to shoot.
Yeah, we were shooting like the death scene for Nad, and you turned around and Paul, Tiana, Dan, I think Dave at one point, they were all asleep on the floor. Someone was snoring. We were like, who's snoring? It was really bad. And then Dan just kind of woke up half asleep, went, I think I have to go home. Just walked out. We're like, so it was good. So then we went back to pizza. We went back to pizza after that.
Back to pizza. But like I say, it just shows, don't it? It just shows that they say this sort of atmosphere that you always create on your sets. It just allows people just to be so relaxed And I think,
Fall asleep.
yeah, that they fall asleep, and
I
it's
think personally
just going
for
the
me,
extra mile.
It's not an intentional thing either. It's just that when people come to work on our films, I feel exceptionally grateful, like that anyone would give me their time anyway. But like you kind of want people there who you're going to get on with, and like who you just and like I mean what like I never understand, because I mean you work on sets sometimes where people are barking orders and shouting and you and you just think this is not a good atmosphere. Like I hate it here. Like how many days have I got left of this? And like once you start going through that, you go, I don't want to ever have people come to my set and feel that way. Like that feels counterproductive for the most part. But also, a lot of the time, people are just giving you their time, like out of pure kindness, And so, why would you treat them like crap? Like, and like, I've seen it enough to go. Why would you want that? Like, you just want.
Yeah, and that sort of thing doesn't work with obviously how your philosophy works with work, and obviously, yeah. I think the way that obviously you run your sets, I think that you've certainly found your way of getting the point across. When it's the time to be getting seriously cracking on with work. You're well scheduled, but you allow that time for people to have that R&R.
I mean,
he does.
I get really
I can remember specifically on Mask of Thorn, I got a right rollicking from you for one particular part when after Gloria being killed, I just stood there like, oh dear.
Oh,
it's the first time I've seen Mike angry.
Oh, I wasn't angry.
Mike when he's angry.
Yeah,
that wasn't Mike angry.
I've got like a behind the scenes. I can't remember what I said to you. It was like, Will, you're supposed to stand up, and you were like, oh right, sorry.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm disappointed. Because I don't want to disappoint you, Mike.
No,
I don't want to let you down.
What are you supposed to be? A disappointment?
I do all the time. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You want a second one?
He doesn't get as I've seen other people get angrier. He just gets more Geordie.
Yeah. The Geordie side comes out.
It sounds angry, but it isn't always.
No, everyone else thinks I'm angry as well, because I've got a
angry face.
A deep northern accent, haven't I?
Yeah.
No.
Resting anger face.
So everyone thinks whenever I raise my voice, everyone thinks, oh, there we go, he's kicking off.
Oh, is it? It's that time.
I think it as well. Like when everybody's getting on, and people are more inclined to be a bit more collaborative, because they feel like they can say stuff, which leads to like things like even better one-liners on the set. On Pandemonium, everyone was going, "Oh, why didn't he say this? Why didn't he say that?" Like for various of Dave's kills. And we shot several different lines for some of the stuff Dave was doing. That was just sort of, and people can throw out some proper gems, and it's also a bit more collaborative. And Lee suggesting how he might die because everything had to move around, and now he had to just sort of be injured and wander off and die somewhere else.
So we kind of turned that into a joke, didn't we? And it's and
that was sort of like Mike says, that was partly Lee kind of thinking about it, and also Cam, the makeup artist, just being a bit clever with a bit of pizza crust and some other stuff to make it into a penis.
I think that was your last. Was that your last night on
you
set
wish
as
you'd
well?
been on set.
Yeah, that would have been.
It was
my last night.
Because we shot your death first, and then we were like, I really hope we've got enough clothes in your size to have a full costume for the rest of the film. Because by that point we were like, the problem was you came about a week later than everyone else, so we basically, because it's low budget, we pooled as many suits and shirts and trousers as we could from wherever we could. We were every charity shop. We were if it's less than a tenner, it's coming with us, basically.
My mum was doing it. My mum was turning up at our house every time she came to visit with a bag full of suits she'd bought from the charity shop.
Our friend Martin, who's in the film, Martin Payne, sent us a box full of suits that he had from years ago. we just had suits galore. But then the problem was there were like a lot of everyone was kind of your age and your size. So all the people who turned up first grabbed all the best, nicest fitting suits. And then by the end of it, like, there was only like, like super giant baggy ones and stuff. I remember there was like a scene where we needed extras. And like, if you look closely, you can literally see Tiana wearing like a size 56 chest, like suit, walking around in like a little skirt up at the top of the entrance to the office, like, it's just hilarious. Like,
oh,
I'd just like to say, shows your guys' resourcefulness and like how many people are willing to help. And like you say, it just shows you the things you can manage with micro budget stuff and like just that bit of resourcefulness.
Yeah,
I think you guys have done that work really well. Throughout all the projects.
I definitely think each time it's like it's a huge team effort every time.
Yeah, you couldn't do it without yourselves and and all the people who come and lend a hand
and people just thinking and people making it fun. Like I keep mentioning people, and then I think of someone else. Like, I've reminded myself about Cam on various things, Haunting of Molly Bannister, like, and just coming up with like songs to just while we're setting up the next shot. Just people who keep the mood up, like, do about sort of 50% of the work for you, because it's so stressful when people are getting like, I'm tired now. When can I go home? When do we finish?
Yeah.
Or, like,
you need people to catch that second wind, or you need that person to give that energy.
Yeah, and if everyone around is of that kind of like Chloe's like that kind of person, like Tatiana is, like, if everyone around is like sort of buoyant, it keeps, and that was definitely there on Pandemonium. That was everybody was that.
Yeah.
And it kept the whole thing like
right up until the end.
Yeah.
Like, even on the last night, we were all sat in like a little kind of broom closet around a heater.
Oh yeah.
We were around a heater
for Danny's Death Not Death.
Yeah, and we were eating like vegan birthday cake and just all having like a little picnic in this little room together.
That was back at the school.
And it was just
in what the nursery was.
Yeah, because there was blood all over all the rest of the floors and everything, so we couldn't kind of stay out there. So we were all sat in this little like cubby hole, like next to a heater, just all like, keep them warm. Yeah, there was the summer, so I don't know why it was so cold. But,
no, I don't know.
And it was just that was the last night, and it was still so good. Like, the whole thing, we were just having a great time, and that doesn't always happen. Like, you're usually too stressed by the end of it, just trying to keep everything together. But
yeah, buddy.
I mean, hopefully, in due course, or when the time is right, we'll be able to return to those sort of times, because obviously you've got so much coming up now, haven't you? We've got so much that's planned, and that you continue in your work.
Yeah.
It's going to be finding the time to get it all done.
Well, I mean, one of the hardest things for me usually is because we've spent so much time making films. It's really hard for me to write all the time, because you, like, if you've got an evening, you're like, oh, I probably need to do pre-production for this, or or I'm editing for something, or so finding writing time, you usually have to you usually need to find like a set amount of time to write stuff. And I mean, like, in life, that just never works out. You never have like a good solid 2 weeks off of other stuff to, so this is, I mean, in some ways, this has been really fortunate. Not fortunate, that's the wrong word, but the silver lining, the only silver lining, is that this kind of last year has at least given me time to literally write all the projects that I've always wanted to but never had the time, or at least half of them, and but it's also given me time to develop the stuff we've got going forward.
It gives you a lot of time for refinement, doesn't it? A lot of, like, say, a time to develop things further.
And I've got a lot of first drafts there now that I can go back and spend a couple of days rewriting and getting better drafts out of them, and after I've got feedback and stuff. And so that's a really good position to be in as a filmmaker and as a writer is that you know, you get, you know, having that time to do that stuff, and so that's been the only real beneficial element of the last year, I think. But I do miss filming, and
Yeah.
you know,
It's funny how much you think even a night shoot now, even like a horrible cold night shoot,
you'd take it.
I'd take it, yeah.
Yeah. You just take that chance to get back out there and start making more of those memories that you've had before, that sense of familiarity.
Yeah, well, I think the last thing we did was like freezing cold November nights, you know, like where I was wearing like 8 layers.
Oh yeah, we made
you know,
a film for the local film network.
3 coats on, and it was horrible. And now I'm like, oh, I missed that though. That was, you know, that was good.
Which film was that then?
Roundabout.
Oh, it was
Roundabouts.
Yeah.
Which you filmed in Milton Keynes, Odeon, didn't you?
We filmed
Yes,
in Milton
we did.
Keynes in general, but yeah,
Just
we
in general.
did. It was set around Milton Keynes. Grant, who is the dad in Barnister Dollhouse, who's a friend of ours anyway, and a really good writer. He wrote it, and I helped run the Milton Keynes Film Network thing in MK. That's like, I'm one of the trustees of the charity. So, we picked it as a script to make, and then Mike directed it, and another local guy shot it, and we had a bit of say over the casting. So Eve,
Obviously, you brought Eve, didn't you?
Of course.
Who wouldn't?
The Mycho sweetheart herself.
Oh, she's just the best. Like you shouldn't just go around not having Eve on your set.
Yeah, even when she's not in stuff, she still comes and helps.
It'll just make your
like,
life better if you just
know.
have Eve around. Yeah, and funnily enough, the guy who was in it was called Adam.
Yeah, so we had Adam and Eve on set.
And Grant played the other character as well. So that, like, yeah, it was nice, but it was cold because it was a lot of it was sort of based around the landmarks of Milton Keynes, which are quite striking, but it's very outdoorsy. But Luna came and did a cameo in that. She was going up to we shot the end of Slasher House.
No, it was Pandemonium.
The end of Pandemonium. So we tied Pandemonium into Slasher House 2. So we had Luna's character coming and putting the bins out as she does in Slasher House 2, or tries to, and then we see Jacob approach, which is actually me in the panda suit.
Yeah, and then we were filming for Roundabouts later that night, so she came out to help, and I said, "Oh, we need an actor for this scene," and I think we were going to get one of the producers or something to do it, and we were like, "Oh, Luna's like a proper actor, get her in there."
Yeah,
you know, like.
So and also she needed a car to do it with, and she came in a Mustang. So we're like, that's an attractive
Perfect.
car to have.
There we go.
She is
just writes itself.
Like she's like the coolest person. She's got a Mustang and a motorbike, and like.
Let's say Luna brings her advantages, doesn't she? She's top notch. She has. I think as well as you always seem to find very top notch people that you get in your stuff, and they're always willing to help you out as well, which is
people as well. Like, yeah. Just, I mean, we like them, obviously.
I mean, yeah, and you tend to find that like people who are nice and kind and cool, like you go, oh, you know, we want to keep them around, like
yeah. And now I feel like it would be impossible to get all the ones that we like into a film together.
But we are trying.
Too many.
Yeah, yes, you certainly are trying.
So that, yeah,
so obviously
you are very trying.
Well, that leads into sort of like the part where I ask you these certain questions that certain people have asked me to put forward to you guys. And I think obviously one of the first ones that I had was what's next for you as the Mycho team for the next sort of 5 years. Now, obviously, we covered that when we went through the Mycon stuff. Obviously, you announced a load of your projects. But what for you guys is your plan over the next 5 years in terms of your scheduling?
Well, I mean, obviously, like everything's kind of changed a little bit. When we did MyCon, it was really a case of we kind of thought that things were going to start to return to some form of normality. I don't think we expected what happened next. So.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Obviously, Slash House 3 was the one we just raised funding for, and literally we were 2 days away from starting to shoot a part of Slash House 3 when we had to pull the whole set because we thought this virus thing looks like it might just be worth, reconsidering. And then suddenly,
lo and behold,
that's a film with a main cast of 30 people. I know, buddy. That means that it's very difficult then to get a film like that up and running again because of the sheer amount of people you need on set per scene to do. So I started just kind of working on stuff that we could possibly do in the meantime. So I think, in terms of where we go from here, what I don't want to do, especially with like a year and a half off now, is to jump straight back into basically like the Captain America Civil War of slasher movies, with no build up back to that. You know what I mean? I haven't been able to go out and shoot anything meaningful for a year and a half, and so it's kind of you don't want to jump straight back into that. So I think, we're doing some short stuff. We've got the Patreon that we want to kind of catch back up on. But again, the thing we wrote for that, the new Sleeper Fool's Day, was another huge undertaking. We had like 20 people per day coming down for that thing. So we were like, so that's the kind of thing we can't go straight back into again. So I think the idea was to come up with something small. So I think we're going to do something very, very small to kind of get us, get some skin back in the game, as they say.
Obviously you did your short film Toffee Apples as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We just found out that was a semi-finalist in the Black Country Horror Film Festival.
I'm basically a big deal now.
Yeah, she keeps telling me every time.
You've always been a big deal.
Every time we get in a selection, she goes, "That's because of me."
It's because of me. It's because of my performance. It's because of Eve on the phone. So it is.
And then, so I think we're going to do. And then we do have another script that's kind of more. We wrote it ready to when things were kind of subsiding with COVID last year. We wrote a film that kind of. A lot of it was set outside, and it has like a cast of about 3 or 4 people. And so we were like, okay, this is a film that I'd always wanted to make it anyway. And I thought it was going to be the film we did after Slasher House 3 straight away. We wanted to do something, because it was so big, I wanted to go and do something a bit smaller. So we just kind of rewrote that a little bit so it could be more kind of exterior set and had less characters. So I think we'll probably try and get that off the ground, for the second half of this year, and just kind of try and get that up and running.
Use that way to ease yourself back in.
Yeah, do something, because as well with something like Slash House 3, like that's a huge undertaking, and so
it's a virus nightmare as well. And if we've still got it
massively.
Yeah, it could be like a couple of years before we have another film out, if that's the film that we go into, because I've got a feeling that the whole thing is going to make that process slower. And so we wanted to go out there and just do a couple of things that means that we're getting some films done and out there. So some of the stuff I've been writing is kind of leaning towards that. And then we'll move on to Slash House 3. And then we've got, like we said at MyCon, we've got a sequel for Bannister Dollhouse called Bannister Doll Heist, which is a heist movie. It's Chucky meets Reservoir Dogs is what we call it. And then we've got Wrath of Thorn, which I believe you'll be returning, although I'm not sure in what capacity yet. We have to.
Yeah, but you can't have a Thorn movie without Will.
Yeah, no, this is it. So
this is it, isn't it? I'm just glad to be back for that.
Pardon?
I'm just glad to be back for it.
Well, I felt like you've been in all of them, so now we have to have you back.
It's quite exciting to have Maria, Eve, and Jade in it. Who are sort of
Although very difficult.
You've got that major triforce of all, like say your three films, which is going to be. I'm really excited to see how they're all going to work together.
Yeah, I mean it's been a challenge. I've just finished the first draft of that January. It's difficult, but I think people like what we've come up with. It's trying to cram that many characters into like an hour and a half is ludicrously silly. To put it mildly.
If anyone can do it, you can.
But I mean, like I say, I think people like what we've come up with. And then we have Pandemonium Incorporated, which is the sequel to Pandemonium. And that is, well, I can't really say too much about it without spoiling it, but it's kind of like, it's a very different film to the first one. Still with the same tone, but it really delves into, because, I mean, without spoiling it, at the end of Pandemonium, we kind of set up like an interesting angle, in terms of the motivation behind Jacob and why he's there. And I was like, wow, this is kind of like a film on its own, So it's kind of like, not in an action way, but it's got a very kind of John Wick. Hotel Artemis is probably closer to what I'd kind of picture at. It's like, imagine Hotel Artemis and like animal mask wearing serial killers, it's kind of that kind of thing. And then the other one, I mean, the film I was working on kind of late last year, I've been working on this for about 3 or 4 years, was Cleaver 3. And then obviously we lost Paul, who plays Cleaver, in December. And that's been a really big blow to us. So we don't really know what we're going to do with that yet. Because we'd announced it at MyCon, and I mean, even on IMDb, it's up there with his name there, but
we just can't think about it right now.
Yeah, and I think
it's a difficult situation to be in, because, like, say, you've lost an extremely close friend, a really wonderful person, and a mainstay of the entire Mycho thing. So it's a big stumbling block.
Well, we're going to sit down with Tiana, I think, and talk about it and see what to do about that. And other than that, there's why is the name of it gone out of my head?
I don't know. But yeah, we've I think we'll see where we're at with that. But I mean, I really am just kind of putting stuff ahead of that at the minute, so that we can give it as much space as we need to really
of course,
what we do in terms of direction. And I want it to be authentic to him, and if we do it, I want it to be really representative of him and his family and the people who knew him, and and all of us, because I mean, we were his family as well, and he was our family, and there's so many other people who were in our films who feel the same way about him, and so it's really how we honor that really going forward, that it needs to be really but I mean, in the meantime, we have been working on other stuff. I've just written I can't really say much about it, to be honest. I've just written a stoner slasher movie. So I wrote it, but me and Grant Grant Kempster, who wrote Roundabouts, what you call, he worked on the treatment and pitch for it, and he was a really great helping me put that together, because I don't want to say I wrote this film when Grant obviously put a lot of work as well. He really put a lot of work into helping me kind of figure this film out. So that's been really good. And with Grant as well, we've been working on a film together. He's writing the script for a film called Werewolves of London. Which is it's something I think we plan to do a little bit later than kind of has happened, but so it's kind of like a reimagining of like the Universal monsters in kind of like gangland London, and it's cool. And there's a bunch of films in the pipeline for that, that kind of go along with it. So that'll be fun once we get it off the ground. But that's kind of more of a large budget thing. So we're kind of getting the wheels rolling now, so that we can kind of have some money to, some proper money to really do the werewolves and stuff justice. And then yesterday I just finished a script for a very super secret project I can't say anything about.
Like, you naughty, you teasing me, you naughty.
If I say anything, people will know what it's about, and that's kind of like the whole
exactly
of what it bounces on. So we just, it's kind of set in a familiar place in the kind of the Mycho world, but that's all I can really say. So.
No, of course. Like you say, it's stuff you want to be excited about, and obviously, I think the element, obviously, that you say, it's somewhere familiar to people who obviously are aware of the MYCHOVERSE, the people that know it, but the interest is there is that we don't know what, and we're going to be on tenterhooks to find out.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, like the idea was to kind of basically create something that you don't know what it is until you kind of get to the end, and then you go, oh, it's that.
Wow.
Hopefully wow, and not like, oh, it's that. I hate that. Which is more likely. 1 star. We'll give it none if I could, But Strawman was the one I was talking about, the one we wrote specifically for COVID. So we've got a Scarecrow film, the starring the legendary Mark Rathbone, and Annabelle Rich,
equally legendary Tony Martin,
and Tony Martin, who a lot of you will probably know from he's making a film at the minute called Witches of the Sands. He's a great guy. Been wanting to work with him for a while. So, and Mark is obviously we've been kind of bouncing this for literally about nearly a decade. Every time we see him, saying, "When are we going to do a film together?" And so now's the time. We wrote Roll for him a couple of years ago, but at the time it was in a short film. It was so small that we thought he would never, he wouldn't want to come and do it. So we didn't ask him. We just got someone local to do it, and then we mentioned to him, and he said, "Oh, totally would have done it." And I said, "Well, if we ever turn it into a feature, you have to play the lead in it then." And he was like, "Yeah," and then we did.
Sounds good.
Cool. That was question 1.
That was bloody hell.
Yes, number 1. Let's see how many more we can get through. I would say I don't want to obviously keep you guys too long, so I'll try and find the most specific and yet interesting ones for you to answer. So, I mean, I did get a lot of comments. Can you continue Will's deaths? Can you give him more shitty hairstyles?
Hair? All of that. Faux hawk next. Faux hawk Will with and he gets his nose chopped off. There we go.
So that'll keep a lot of people happy. But one of my friends, Matt, he asked the question: if you have the opportunity to remake one of your movies with a Hollywood-style budget, which one would you pick and why?
I don't know.
Slasherhouse 2.
Slasherhouse 2. Yeah, probably Slasherhouse 2. I think we did a lot on that film with next to nothing, and I think it could have benefited from actually having. Yeah, there's a lot of technology and stuff in it that I don't think anything else would change that much. You see, obviously we'd have like more money and so better pizza. I don't know. But I think also maybe Mask of Thorn. I'd really love to. Although I really enjoyed making that the way I made it. To be honest, a lot of our films I really enjoyed making them the way they were made. I think the first Slasherhouse, maybe I'd really like to kind of. I'd had considered at one point, remaking it. With kind of modern tech, and because I mean, when we made it, DSLRs were just kind of an HD video was just kind of appearing. But I would really like to go back to that now with everything I've learned, and because it's a very small film, and kind of with our updated cast, you know what I mean, of like the new Red and the new Cleaver and the new Thorn, and and just kind of redo it. Because as well, a lot of those characters have evolved to become different since they were in that movie, and so it would have been nice to kind of reset that a little bit, make it like maybe a bit of a greatest hits. One of the things we were going to do with Slasherhouse 3 was potentially do like a smaller version of that film, but things have changed since then. So, but yeah, maybe Slasherhouse or Slasherhouse,
indeed,
or both.
Or both. Or maybe have a big enough budget to do all of them.
If we've got millions, we'll do all.
Yeah, we'll do them all.
I'd say. If you've got like an Endgame style budget, then the world's your oyster. That'd be nice. So next one we'll go to is. Here's a couple. More about me dying. People, one-track minds. What is your funniest onset memory?
Funniest?
I'm sure there's plenty to pick from.
That time when you wouldn't.
I mean, we've gone through a fair few. What? Sorry.
That time when you wouldn't stand up. Hilarious.
Sounds about right. The time where I did something wrong.
What about you, Anna?
God, that is really hard because there have been rice cakes just flying at me now. There you go.
There he is.
Pull the baby out.
He's the prince that was promised.
Hi, Ash.
What's your funniest onset moment? Do you remember when Sophie played sunglasses with you, or Dave was all dressed up and looked at you funny? God.
Go on, you answer while I take care of this child.
I mean, there was loads on Pandemonium that just had me in bits, like. But I think, yeah, we've sort of talked about them. There was a bit on Pandemonium where we were shooting in the lift, and it was just some pickups we were getting with Dave getting into the lift and Dave getting out of the lift. So we'd go into the lift and the door would come open and he'd step out. Daddy's very funny, and so Dave got into the lift and he's supposed to step straight out and the lift went down. And all we heard was screams rattling around the building because the doors had opened in the car park for the shopping centre downstairs. And Dave with a panda mask and a knife and a briefcase. And then two women got in the lift with him. And he stayed in character and silent. And then he got out with us and we were like, oh, I'm so sorry. And they carried on going up to the car park and he legged it up the stairs to meet them at the top. So that when the doors opened again at the top, we again heard like a load of screams going, and oh, you bastard, or something like that. And Dave came back down.
Oh, yeah, they were screaming.
It's perfect.
And then even when they were driving out in their car, like you could hear them still screaming, like from this terror that had happened to them. It was...
yeah, we should find out one day who that was. That was very funny.
Get an interview with them.
Yeah, that was.
See, this is why you need to attach like little GoPros to everybody, just to get all your behind the scenes laughs.
That was really funny.
I think for me it was Mask of Thorn. It was we were shooting on in the theatre scene.
Oh, yeah.
And like at the end of the scene, it was supposed to be like a corridor running down the back of this thing, but none of the theatres we looked at had one, but this one did have like a little crevice that went under the stage. We said, okay, we'll use that instead. So but it was just like a dark corridor that led under the stage to a dead end. And so Eve, George and Sophie went in this thing, and you could just hear Sophie inside screaming because they had to close the door behind them, and you could just hear her going, underneath. Obviously, they have to stay in there while we're shooting this thing. And then what you call it? Anna came down and she just put her foot in front of the door.
No, I told Atticus to do it. So that.
I see.
And then Atticus playing Thorn put his foot. I said just go on. So then Mike shouted cut. And they went to open the door, and obviously his. He had wedged it shut, and they were going mental, and then they came running out, and Sophie, who is like this tiny little sort of pile of fire, just like Jade, like that sort of energy in a tiny little person, and she just came out swinging for him, and I was going, Atticus, that's awful. He did that. That was really funny.
That was funny. Or one night we were filming in the gym, and I think she'd wrapped on her shots, but she used to stick around to help out and stuff. And I think George was staying there, Sophie.
Sophie.
And she fell asleep. Like, she fell asleep at the back of the room, and like George had to carry her out to the car. And then another time we were filming the cult scene in the church, and basically we didn't have like an altar, so we kind of put like some fancy cloth on like a pool table. But then they were supposed to be hiding under it for the scene while everyone was getting massacred and that. And when we came to check on her, she'd fallen asleep under this pool table.
All of them had, I think, that time.
So I mean, I guess all my funniest memories was Sophie falling asleep on set.
One time she woke
or
up
screaming
sleepily and asked George for a sandwich.
Oh yeah,
that was good. Yeah, that was funny, wasn't it?
I mean, I guess I never really find set that funny because I'm always like at the height of stress. So
yeah,
I didn't die today. That's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, there have been some funny moments, but a lot of the time, you kind of really just glad you've made your schedule and stuff.
Will in the Wake was funny.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. When we
I think that's one of my fondest ones. You just shearing this amount of like that wig, all just blowing around the front of the school.
Every day for the next 2 weeks, every time you stepped outside, you'd just get, it was like like old westerns, but with this black curtain in front of the door, like in the wind, and like it just never seemed to end. Like, it was really funny. I like that.
It was fantastic. Yeah, there's that many to choose from. So I'll just do one final question just to try and sum everything up. Just finally, with my friend Michael, it is, so what are the reasons behind you and calling obviously your company's name, and why the slasher horror genre, and are you having any plans of branching out?
Well, the name comes from when I first kind of wanted to start my own production company, because I had one before that I'd kind of ran with another couple of guys when I lived in my hometown. But when I kind of left and kind of went on my own, I decided I wanted to kind of do something a bit fresh. But I couldn't come up with something, and I spent like about a month just writing down, like I had a pad with like loads of name ideas and stuff, and I couldn't really think of anything. And eventually I settled on, at the time I was rereading everything I learned about filmmaking I learned from The Toxic Avenger. And they called trauma because it was like a name that didn't exist. It was a word that didn't exist. And I was like, wow, okay, if I make up a name that like a word doesn't exist, like no one can like accidentally take it or whatever, or so I thought at the time. So I searched it, no hits or anything. So I came up with so my first name's Mike, obviously, and one of my favorite films is Psycho. So I just kind of messed around with that and was like, oh, actually, I quite like that, And at the time, when I used to draw the logo, it was really easy to kind of draw like a cool logo quite quickly. So when I was like signing bits of paper and stuff to start writing things down, it was really easy to draw my little logo. So that kind of started off like that. And that's where the name came from. Was hiya, thank you. And then
Ash likes this story, I'm guessing.
But I mean, I've always really liked horror just in general. Like, it always frustrates me when I think people go out and make a horror film because they think, oh, horror sells, I'll go and make a horror. Because like, it's the thing that I've always really loved, and it's the thing I've always just wanted to do personally. When I was writing Slasher House, like I liked the idea of taking the slasher movie as a foundation. The idea of like killer in a mask or a costume, or or some grievance or something, hunting down, killing off victims of a specific type for some reason. I like the idea of taking that kind of done to death scenario and then trying to build something unique on top of it, which is kind of where Slash House came from. And then the same with kind of Legacy of Thorn. It was just using that as a foundation to start kind of trying to tell interesting stories and using different genres to do that. So every film kind of has its own genre. Like Slash House is like a mystery, Thorn's more of an action movie, like Hollow is a psychological thriller. Slasher 2 is like a kung fu movie, basically, like a modern kung fu movie like Blade or something, and then so it's just kind of doing things like that. So I think it's a really good foundation to kind of start from, to build up. But I mean, as for doing anything outside of that, I guess I feel like I kind of scratch that itch by doing stuff like Cleaver 2, where it's like a road movie, and a buddy movie, but also a slasher movie kind of underneath all that. Same time.
I think you're always under that umbrella theme of the whole slasher genre.
Yeah.
But obviously, with a lot of your films, like you say, with depending on the characters or the different style of the franchise, there's always that underlying elements, and there's always bits and pieces from other genres of films that are quite clear to see in all of those other films. Like say, Thorn's more action. Obviously, Cleaver, you've got more the road style films. So yeah, I think that's a very, very good, like you say, element. But obviously, your foundation is your slasher.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, for the Mycho universe, that's kind of got to be that thing. But I mean, I've always considered. I mean, for years, I've kind of always written down. I've written little scripts and stuff for, like that are much more science fiction and things like that. So I mean, maybe one day, I'll kind of do like the science fiction version of what I'm doing now. With, because we've always thought about it with when Thorn eventually ends up in space. Maybe then I can take some elements of that, spin that off into something, because inevitably it's going to happen, isn't it? It has to. If you have a part 4, if I have a part 4, you've got to go to space. That's the rules.
I could do that. Go through astronaut training.
You already have one with
we'll just surprise your character from Rick's April Fool's Day.
Yeah,
can be on the space station with Rick.
Can we still have Lewis as the cyber prankster?
Of course, I don't think we'd allow it any other way. It's really frustrating because the April Fool's Day that we were doing last year before we had to shut everything down. We even had like a cameo of Lewis like walking around in the background dressed as the robot, like on his coffee.
I must admit, I am sorry again, because I remember obviously you asked me to come do that and I was unavailable at the time, and I watched that again not long back, and I
would not have remembered that. I would have assumed that you hadn't made it because we had to pull the whole thing. So
mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Drop yourself in it there.
Got the wrong one. Got the wrong one. I was thinking of 82. Sequel 82.
Yeah, next time you're going to die horribly.
That's it. Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. I can live with that. How do I dig myself out of this one? I really enjoy working with you guys, and I think again I've got to thank you again for your time tonight. I appreciate
time. Yeah, I mean I
appreciate you giving up your time.
Not everyone will accommodate a screaming rice cake eating baby. So
there he is. It's not.
That's it.
My hands have got really small.
No, just
one big hand and one small hand. That's
if this is
one big hand and one little hand. This is that.
If this is an audio only podcast, like, I mean, people are going to be like,
"Oh no, this is full video. Don't worry, this is video."
Excellent.
I mean, did I not make that clear at the start? Shit, I've wanted to do that.
I'm the recording will, so
this is true.
I'll just
you can do what you like.
I'll just recast myself with Scarlett Johansson. No. Okay.
No.
One day.
Just hold a candle to you, Anna.
Oh, if you would. I mean, thanks.
You're welcome.
Baby.
Listen to you. Well, I think that probably wraps everything up for us tonight. So
this was epic.
Yeah, it was fun. This. Should do it again.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it. It's been a really good catch up, and thank you again. Obviously, I wanted to obviously do this a lot sooner. So thank you for bearing with me. But obviously, we've had a house move to contend with, so that's been a bit chaotic. A week of packing, cleaning down. And then obviously we've taken about five days to a week to just move into the place. And
Yeah.
so it's all come at a strange time, but it's been very enjoyable. And I'm looking forward to Sunday where we'll have our catch up.
Yeah.
As always. So we'll stay tuned to that.
Got lots of new gadgets to show everyone in his show and tells that he does on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Here we go.
I basically just show off all the camera gear to everyone now. They're like, "Oh, what's everyone been up to this week?" And I'm like, "Shut up and look at my new camera handle."
Shut up and look at my new camera gear, or shut up and look at my new toys, my new figures.
That's basically it.
He came
my
and
figures and my camera.
He came and showed me his new audio setup, and he said, "Look, this records, and I can go in the other room and listen." So I said into it, "Your tea's ready. Put your toys away." And then I said, "Did you hear that?" And he was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, all right. There you are then. You're going to have to show me how to use mine eventually, Mike.
I will.
Is that your dad?
It's a promise. But yeah, I think that wraps everything up for us tonight now. So thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who sent their questions in. And like always, I'll see you guys, the audience, and of course the Mycho guys in the sequel. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Do it.